On May 17, 2024, the Parliament of Taiwan turned into a physical fight. Lawmakers climbed over desks. They threw punches. One man was carried out on a stretcher. By the end of the night, 6 of them had been sent to the hospital. Now, you might assume this happens only in a country with a weak or failing government. It does not. Every year, a research organisation based in London, the Economist Intelligence Unit, scores each country in the world on how democratic it is and publishes a ranking. In that same year, 2024, it ranked Taiwan the most democratic society in all of Asia, 12th in the entire world, ahead of the United States. So Taiwan holds a contradiction. On paper, it is one of the finest democracies on earth. On video, its lawmakers are trading blows. This is not a rare accident, and it is not charming. It is a recurring failure. And today we explain, step by step, exactly why it keeps happening. To be fair, the praise is not empty. Taiwan holds genuinely free elections. Power has passed peacefully between rival parties 3 separate times since the year 2000. Its press is the freest in Asia. Those are real achievements, and they deserve to be stated plainly. But the violence is just as real, and it is not a one-time embarrassment. Taiwanese lawmakers have shoved, thrown water, and thrown punches inside that chamber for more than 30 years. It happened again in December 2024, when legislators hurled water across the floor during a fight over the budget. Foreign news channels replay the footage every time because it is shocking. So we have 2 facts that seem to contradict each other: a top-ranked democracy and a parliament that regularly breaks into a brawl. The real question is why? And to answer it, you have to look at who was fighting and what they were fighting over. Begin with the result of Taiwan's January 2024 election. The Democratic Progressive Party, usually shortened to the DPP, won the presidency, but it lost its majority in the legislature, the body that writes and passes the laws. This created what political scientists call divided government. That simply means the president's party does not control the lawmaking body. 2 opposition parties, the Kuomintang, or KMT, and a smaller group called the Taiwan People's Party, together held more seats than the president's party. Older democracies handle this through fixed rules and negotiation. Taiwan struggles with it, and the reason is its youth. For nearly 4 decades, Taiwan lived under martial law, direct military rule, in which normal political rights are suspended. That only ended in 1987. The first election in which ordinary citizens directly chose their own president was in 1996. That is recent. Most adults in Taiwan today were already alive to see it. In a legislature that young, the 2 sides have not yet built the habit of compromise. So, when one side loses a vote, it is left with only one option. Unable to win the vote, it tries to physically stop the vote by blocking the speaker's podium so the session cannot continue. That is what these brawls actually are. Not random anger, a deliberate tactic to keep a law from passing. Now look at what they were actually fighting over in May 2024. The opposition majority pushed through a package of bills that expanded the legislature's own powers. One part of it would let lawmakers criminally punish government officials with fines or even jail for statements the legislature itself decided were lies. The DPP called this a power grab, forced through without proper debate. Unable to stop it with votes, they tried to stop it with their bodies. That is the fight that put 6 people in the hospital. But here is what the viral clips leave out, and it matters. The conflict did not end on the floor. More than 100,000 citizens filled the streets in protest. It became known as the Bluebird Movement, named after the street next to the parliament. Then, that October, Taiwan's Constitutional Court Its highest court, which has the power to cancel any law that violates the Constitution, struck down the core of the new law. Then, in 2025, activists tried to remove 31 opposition lawmakers all at once, using recalls. A recall is a special vote that lets citizens fire an elected official before their term is over. That campaign failed. So the fistfight was only the first stage of a much longer battle, one fought in the courts, in the streets, and at the ballot box. So is Taiwan's democracy broken? That is the wrong word. The honest verdict is harsher and more specific. It is real, but it is unfinished, and ordinary people are paying for the parts that are still missing. Start with the achievement, because it is genuine. Taiwan became a full democracy in about 30 years, a change that took older nations more than a century. Full democracy is the EIU's top category: free elections, protected civil liberties, and working limits on power. And the system does correct itself. The court ruled, the public protested, the elections went ahead. But the fistfights show what that speed skipped over. In a settled democracy, when your side loses a vote, you do not fight, because losing a vote is not the end. You can challenge the law in court, and you can try to win the next election. Both sides know this, so they accept the result and move on. That is the peace Taiwan has not finished building. It has the courts and the elections, but not yet the shared confidence that lets the losing side put its fists down and wait for the next round instead of blocking the podium. And underneath sits an older, uglier problem. Taiwanese have a specific name for it: black gold. It means the mix of illegal money and organized crime influence in politics, inherited from the decades of one-party rule. Vote buying and local political machines that were never fully cleaned out. Prosecutors still bring corruption cases against sitting and former officials from both major parties. So here is the point. It is true that Taiwan is the highest-ranked democracy in Asia. But that ranking is not the whole picture. If you only look at the score, you miss what is still broken underneath it: a parliament that settles fights with fists, and an old corruption problem that has never gone away. The ranking is real. The problems are just as real. So we should be careful with the praise. Being called the most democratic society in Asia sounds impressive, but look at the neighborhood. Much of Asia is run by one-party states, by monarchies, or by weak democracies. So finishing first in Asia can mean two very different things. It can mean Taiwan is genuinely excellent, or it can simply mean the countries around it set a low bar. The honest answer is some of both. And that is exactly why the fistfights matter. They show that even the top-rated democracy in Asia still cannot reliably pass a law without a physical fight. And Taiwan carries that weakness under unusual pressure. About 100 miles away, across a narrow strait, sits China, which regards Taiwan as part of its own territory, a dispute that has kept the two sides in a tense standoff for decades. No other democracy operates under that kind of constant outside pressure. A democracy in that position can hardly afford a parliament that keeps breaking down into brawls. The world keeps its eyes on the strait between Taiwan and China, watching for any sign of conflict. But some of Taiwan's most serious problems are not out at sea. They are inside its own parliament. This was the first. In the episodes ahead, we will take a closer look at more of Taiwan's real internal problems.